Hey everyone, it's the Vigilante. So for right now, I just got done watching the Electric State movie on Netflix. And let me tell you, that was one of the most horrible, boring movies I have ever seen. The only thing that's nice about Netflix, well, there's a lot of things that are nice about Netflix, but one of the things that are nice is you can sit there and do it in like 1.5 speed. That's the only way I got through this movie. So let's see what the critical drinker has to say about it.
You know, there are times, admittedly very rare times, when I actually start to believe that Hollywood might be learning lessons from the past few years of box office flops, ballooning budgets, insufferable actors, and relentless attacks on their own customers. Then I watch something like The Electric State, a bloated, meandering, tedious, derivative, and lazy sci-fi action movie that doesn't know what it wants to be or what sort of story it wants to tell, that's weighed down by lazy, phoned-in performances from its normally talented cast, and that cost a frankly absurd $320 million to produce. And I realised that, nah, it's pretty much business as usual. The Electric State is a film that has absolutely no reason to exist, that has no pace or energy or dramatic momentum, no idea what to do with its bloated cast of characters, and that pretty much represents all the worst excesses of an industry that's got too much money, too many resources, and not enough creative drive or simple common sense to know what to do with them. It's actually kind of weird to go from reviewing something like Firefly that did a lot with very little, to The Electric State which does almost nothing with a great deal. Anyway, let's talk about the plot, shall we? This shouldn't take long. The film stars Millie Bobby Brown, who's...
Yeah, I swear it's either they're not spending enough money on the writers or they're just using AI. Honestly, I'm starting to think that they're using AI, which I still don't understand how this movie, especially for Netflix, I mean, because it's not like Netflix really does these, well, no, they have done some big budget movies, but this one, there's no reason for it to be a big budget. And honestly, it sounded like a good idea on paper. It really did. You know, here's spoiler warning. When it comes to the robots and everything, I mean, it had a great idea, but the problem was they just didn't write it well enough. And then with the actors and actresses, I mean, they had more than four. They had a bunch of amazing actors and actresses. The problem is that the writing was so bad, none of them could do anything. The best part about this movie was probably seeing Chris Pratt. Even when the movie's bad, I think Chris Pratt actually does do a good job, because I love Chris Pratt.
Still desperately searching for a role that'll turn her into something more than 11 from Stranger Things, as Michelle, a young woman living in an alternate history 1990s where AI technology has somehow advanced to the point where intelligent robots now work in every aspect of society. Although weirdly, nothing else seems to have advanced to match it, so the world of Electric State is this weird juxtaposition of hyper-advanced AI robots and virtual interactive worlds that would make Tony Stark green with envy, but also clunky 1990s computers, VHS players, and old-fashioned cars and communications technology. Oh god, we're doing this again, aren't we? Like, I think we can all agree that the whole 1980s nostalgia thing has pretty much run its course now, but like the creative powerhouses that they aren't, Hollywood writers have decided that the next big thing is going to be 90s nostalgia. Son of a bitch! It's a whole new decade of music, recognizable iconography, and pop culture just waiting to be vandalized by people who probably didn't even experience it for themselves. God damn, I hate this fucking timeline. Anyway, jump forward 4 years and the robots rebel against humanity, because that's what robots always do, leading to a destructive war that ultimately kills millions. But humanity eventually turns the tables on the robots with a little help from a mega corporation called Center, leading to their eventual victory. The remaining robots are rounded up and locked away in an exclusion zone instead of, you know, being dismantled and destroyed so they can't pose a threat again. Fucking genius decision making there, boys. Oh yeah, and Michelle's brother and parents apparently died off screen in a car crash in a scene so narratively jarring that I'm still having treatment for whiplash.
Get the fuck out of my sight before I demolish you.
Yeah, honestly, this movie was nothing more than a hit piece against corporations. So if you are very pro-corporation or pro-business, I would not recommend you to watch this. Now, when he says there's going on about 90s nostalgia, I am perfectly fine with movies doing 80s nostalgia, 90s nostalgia. I actually like it. I love those types of movies, those futuristic movie type things, or the retro futuristic movies. Those are great. The only thing is you got to do good writing. It has to have a good story. This one just, the story is so basic, it's like you could guess exactly what was going to happen. It was so predictable. I don't think I've ever watched a movie that was this predictable before.
Michelle herself now struggles through high school and lives with a neglectful foster dad, despite the fact that she looks about 30 years old now. I mean, I get that Millie Bobby Brown is only like 21, so in theory she should still be able to play a teenager, but like it or not, she looks way older than she actually is now, so she's about as believable as a high school student as the cast of Grease. Anyway, I digress. So Michelle is home one night when a robot named Cosmo breaks into her house, and she discovers that it seems to have the personality and memories of her brother, who's apparently still alive and controlling it remotely. She believes the answer lies somewhere in the exclusion zone, so she hitches a ride there and soon runs runs into Chris Pratt, who's a former soldier turned black market smuggler. I mean, I guess his character has a name, but really, who fucking cares? He was hired to play Chris Pratt in this movie, and that's exactly what he delivers, for better or worse. Meanwhile, Stanley Tucci, the head of Center, finds out that Michelle's brother managed to download his consciousness into Cosmo so that he could escape from the facility they've been keeping him in for the past few years. Oh yeah, her brother's been wired into their mainframe to become a kind of human supercomputer, because sure, that's a thing you can totally do with 1990s level technology. And since his consciousness is now split between the mainframe and Cosmo, their network is starting to fall apart. So Stanley Tucci dispatches Giancarlo Esposito in a robot body to hunt down Cosmo and bring him in.
Oh yeah. You know, and the thing is, okay, so I don't know if we got into this point yet, but everyone in this movie, they're terrified of robots. They look at robots as the biggest enemy the world has ever seen. And they start in New Mexico, and they lead a team all the way to Seattle. Do you actually think that that group of robots, with everybody terrified, everybody on alert about robots, you think they would have made it all the way to Seattle? That was the dumbest thing. Then with Chris Pratt, pretty much what you get in this movie is a Star-Lord on Earth. Okay, without his cool gadgets. That's pretty much what you're getting.
Chris Pratt and Michelle eventually run into the abandoned robots who still live in the zone, led by Mr. Peanut Head, and wow, that's a sentence I never thought I'd find myself saying. So robotic Giancarlo Esposito shows up with an army of robot drones and takes Michelle's brother back to Center headquarters. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? That's right, Michelle and Chris Pratt team up with Mr. Peanut Head to lead an army of robots against Center headquarters to take down Stanley Tucci and save her brother. But then he decides he's too badly injured to survive in his real body, which is kind of weird because he seems to have no visible injuries and looks to be perfectly healthy, but whatever, the script needs the rest of the plot to happen. So Michelle unplugs him and he dies and all the enemy robots shut down conveniently and the world goes back to normal. And that's it, that's the plot for the Electric State. What a piece of shit. Honestly, after experiencing the 2 hours of self-inflicted suffering that is this movie, I was genuinely angry by the time it was over. Not only because I'd sunk 128 minutes of my life into something so completely boring and forgettable that I was struggling to remember what was even going on while it was happening, but because I couldn't help thinking about all the other stuff that could have gotten made instead of this complete anal excretion. For the price of this one movie, you could have financed 21 Godzilla -1s or 10 seasons of Firefly. You could make Terminator 2 3 times over and still have money to spare. And it's not like every penny of that ridiculous budget is up on screen either. The CGI is passable at best and dogshit at worst. There wasn't a single moment of spectacle that even vaguely impressed me, and even the action set pieces are depressingly bloodless and unimaginative. Movies like The Creator were made on a budget of $80 million and somehow looked way better than this turd. I don't know, maybe they spent all the money on their cast, which on paper is impressive at least. Getting Chris Pratt, Giancarlo Esposito, Stanley Tucci, Woody Harrelson, Anthony Mackie, and Brian Cox all together in one movie is pretty impressive, but they're all just playing the same stock characters they've done a million.
Alright, I will disagree with them. I thought the CGI for the robots actually did look really good, especially Mr. Peanut. So I will disagree with them on that one. But like I said before, with Chris Pratt, you pretty much get Star-Lord. You know, and another thing is, because he didn't really sit there, well, he kind of went into it, but when they were talking about how the boy had to die because he couldn't survive in his own body, there was a part in the movie where the kid woke up and actually started moving. You could see that he was coherent. So, like, why couldn't he survive? Yeah, they never explained why. It's like this movie, the story was so dumbed down that they literally were trying to appease like a toddler, I think.
Times before, with about as much depth as the puddle of piss that had formed under my chair by the time the film was over, and you can almost feel the boredom radiating out through the screen. Everyone just feels like they're phoning it in for a quick and easy payday, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what actually happens. Ke-Huy Quan is the only one who actually seems to be trying here, and as much as I love the fact that he's making a late career comeback, he's in the movie for like 5 minutes before they kill his character off. Fuck off, film. Brown and Pratt have got absolutely no chemistry together, probably because the script seems a bit confused about what it even wants from them. There's too much of an age gap for a romantic relationship, Pratt's character is too immature for a father-daughter kind of connection, and they're too different for a generic friendship, so like everything else in this movie, they just kind of meander along with no idea what they're supposed to be doing. Even the direction is disappointingly apathetic, like the Russo brothers were coerced into making this film and vowed to put as little effort into it as possible. I've heard people try to make the argument that this film was written as a goofy comedy caper that you're not supposed to think too much about, which is a bullshit argument in the first place because even comedies can make sense, and second, anyone who's actually watched the film would know that it absolutely wants you to take its characters and stakes seriously. The Electric State wants to be seen as some beautiful tragic fairy tale about family bonds, the power of love and sacrifice, the nature of humanity and consciousness, and the ethical questions that arise when you create those things with technology, but it's kind of difficult to buy into grand philosophical ideas like that when you're watching Mr. Peanut Head having a sword fight against Giancarlo Esposito in a mech suit.
Yeah, outside the story, one of the biggest problems with this movie was, what's her name? Millie Bobby Brown. That was definitely one of the biggest problems. See, the thing with her is, you know, we all know her from Stranger Things, so it's going to be so hard to sit there and take her out of that movie. And when it comes to child stars or someone that's like famous for one type of role, you got to do other roles that are somewhat similar to it. You know, you got to do those typecasts for a little bit and slowly have it change. You can't do a dramatic change like that. Okay, you know, and the thing is also, she looks a lot older than what she is.
Ultimately, The Electric State is a movie that left me genuinely baffled by its very existence. It has the budget and star power of a major Hollywood blockbuster, built around a premise that should have been a low-budget sci-fi drama, and sharted out onto a streaming service where it can never possibly hope to recoup its massive costs. Is it supposed to be some weird money laundering scheme? Do Netflix just hate making a profit? I don't fucking know, but I do know one thing: you should save yourself 2 hours of misery and go watch literally anything else. Now, if you'll excuse me, I should probably get around to mopping up that piss. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
I would definitely recommend people to skip this movie, but you would think on paper this movie should have been a no-brainer with the cast and, you know, and how the movie was meant to be. It should have been a no-brainer. This should have been a hit and run, but the problem was it had predictable story. The writing was terrible. It gave no time for the characters to build up anything, and honestly, they should have gone with Millie Bobby Brown. They should have went with someone different. Well, that's it for my reaction. Let me know down in the comments if you agree with me or not. Please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, stay vigilant.